Sometimes things could happen outside of our prediction, so does Wesley. There was a battle happening in his mind, determining whether he should go home and show his mom his semester exam result. His heart was beating fast. He knew there was no way to escape. He was feeling the invisible tension rising through the eye contact from his mom. There it goes again. His mom began rapping like Eminem. Endless curse words pierced as swords directly to Wesley's heart. He went back to his room. His legs were heavy. As he was laying on his bed, thinking what just happened, time passed as if it was in one blink. He closed his heavy eyelids. It was the next day. Wesley's mom was bringing Wesley to school as usual. His eyes kept skipping around, looking for something. Their car stopped due to the traffic. Wesley looked out from the window as he found a perfect opportunity. Without his mom noticing, he quickly got out of the car and ran towards the bridge on top of a river as fast as he could as his last 2 drops of tears came out. He climbed over the fence without any hesitation as his mom noticed him, but it was too late. As he fell, the short 5 seconds seemed as long as his lifetime. His mom's words still remain in his head. Instead of a lively person, what was left were a few ripples still widening. However, Todd also got the same grade as Wesley. But his mom approached differently by using encouraging and positive words to comfort him. A drop of happiness tear silently slipped off from his face. 2 years later, Todd got inspired from the words he received from his mom and eventually got into his dream university. We cannot underestimate the power of words. Each time before you speak, process the words through your head thoroughly, because words can destroy, can inspire. Before I started the animation, I developed my idea by constructing a storyboard containing 23 panels. I used 1,454 equations in total in the completion of this animation. In the first panel, I created 6 animation movements. In order to allow the basketball to follow the desired parabola shape, I first drew a concave down parabola in vertex form that has the domain of the distance between the stigma and the basket ring. This constant affects the shape of the parabola. The bigger the number, the narrower the parabola is going to be, and of course, if the sign is negative, the parabola faces down. So do the positive sign on the contrary. This number locates the axis of symmetry, and this number shifts the parabola up and down on the y-coordinate. Once you finish writing the equation, you basically just need to plug in the variable of the coordinates of the basketball, which in this case are n and f of n. Finally, set the restriction of the domain on the x-axis on how far you want the ball to travel. Change the speed if needed. Next, to create the football field, I simply changed the placement of x and y in order to make the concave of the parabola to face left or right. Negative sign makes the concave face left, and positive sign in front of the variable makes the concave face to the right side. Now, things are going to change up a bit compared to the normal shading technique. Multiply the 2 lines around the shading area. Instead of an equal sign, change it to inequalities less or equal to 0. Set the range on the y-axis by typing down the minimum coordinate and the maximum. The reason why I have multiple same equations is because I want to make the color more distinct. In order to let the football move horizontally, change the x-coordinate by setting limitations to the animation. Sine and cosine functions were used to create the waves of the pool. A changes the steepness of the wave, and this number affects the location of the wave along the y-axis. Again, set restriction on the x-axis to where you want the edge of the pool to be. In order to shade the purple part of the door, I used the same technique as the football field, but to make the purple part of the door follow the black line moving, I put D as the maximum X value limitation in the slider. The frame and the shelf were created by simple linear equations. To create horizontal lines, I put y equals. To create vertical lines, I put x equals. To make my life easier, I used absolute values to create two symmetrical lines at the same time. This number determines the horizontal translation of the x value, and this determines the vertical translation of the y value. The number before the x constant determines the dilation of the graph. To give appeal to the shrug, I put a slider with limitation on the vertical translation on both of the arms at the same speed. To give the visual of the test paper moving up and down, I set restriction to the vertical translation on the y-intercept. To make the stickman move on the horizontal translation, I created sliders with the appropriate restrictions in the same speed. I used the same technique as the football field and the door in shading the bed in 3 sections. The raindrops were created by using periodic seal functions. This variable affects the x-axis restriction. The variable in front of y affects the size of the raindrops, and the constant A affects the vertical translation. The final scene was constructed with simple quadratic equations, linear equations, circles, and ellipses.